right, good morning. Welcome to the Summer Institute. I'm going to share the slides. I'm glad to see so many people live this morning. It's nice. If you want to put your camera on, we'd love to see your face. And this morning, Irene is hosting. So I'll put it is, wow, Monday, August 21st. Maybe I'll just say for the people who are following on the recording that Kim and Irene and I have divided the duties this week. So this morning Irene is hosting, but you are welcome to email any of the three of us if you have questions or things for follow-up. And I'll let Irene take over. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tricia. It's a pleasure to work with you this week, and as Tricia said, it's wonderful to see everyone not quite back to school mode, but close enough. And so I'd like to begin by expressing our land acknowledgement today. Today we acknowledge the lands we share with the Indigenous people, including the Métis, the Inuit, and all other ancestors who have made these lands their home. As we gather within these territories, we are thankful for all that sustain us and provide for us at this time of year. We're thankful for new beginnings, new life, and new opportunity provided. In the essence of reconciliation, we acknowledge these territorial lands of Treaties 6, 7, and 8. And so that's the first piece. Today, I'm going to focus on fiction, how it's connected to new curriculum. I've tried to put together grade 4, 5, and 6 outcomes, organizing ideas, and so on to show you. And then I've created a mini lesson, and I want to talk about routines that still fit the work that you do in your classrooms. And it's probably a good time to look at this because school is in a couple of weeks or end of next weekend, whenever. Some people are back already with year-round schooling. And so this seems like a perfect time. What I'm going to do is this is a question of the day. It's a good opener. I'll speak to this after we do it. Think about where you're from. What's your favorite thing about your hometown? Think about it, put it in the chat, and when I say 3, 2, 1, everybody click, and we'll see what people are saying about their hometown. So just give it a thought, and I'll start the countdown in a minute. Okay, countdown. 3, 2, 1. Let's see what the chats say. What lovely descriptors.
Oh, I love it. There are so many different ideas.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the people, sometimes it's the scenery.
And the food, apparently, too, sometimes.
Burlington, Ontario. Yes, the Coke factory. That's funny. That's what I think of, too.
That's wonderful. So neat. And I can see that people are from all over the place too, which is very heartening. That's really good. Well, you know, what you just did was called a waterfall, and students can certainly do it. Oh God, lobster feasts, please. Gotta go. I'll be back. This whole notion of a waterfall is you ask students a question, they put it on the chat, and then you can just say 3, 2, 1, and everybody contributes their idea. That kind of takes away the whole pressure of what do you say, what do you think, what do you think. However, if that's not an availability, you can have small group chats, that kind of thing within the classroom. You're certainly one of the people who would contribute to that. It helps students to see that you're human too, if you will. It's this part of routine promotes oral language and making personal connections. That's a very good practice for our students. Journalbuddies.com, I highly recommend because it's free to register, and you'll get emails from Journal Buddies Jill, and she sends monthly prompts to you, which can be used as quick writes. I really like them for a question of the day. Her prompts are very creative. She's got a section of would you rather, would you rather have blue hair or blue face? Why? And that kind of thing. It takes a minute or two. Kids share with each other. And she offers grade level prompts as well, right into high school. So I really, really like I've been getting emails all summer for midsummer writing, which she really focuses on you, the teacher. Now we've got beginning of school prompts, that kind of thing. And I was reading one of her pieces this summer, and she said it's okay to give kids a blank piece of paper and say, write. But of course, that's going to come later on in the year type of thing once kids are used to that whole quick write piece. But I was intrigued, we give them prompts and we help them, we give them sentence starters, that kind of thing. But I think a question of the day can be so much. Oral for sure. And it's another way to expand our oral language infusion into the classroom. So that's definitely a routine. And, this is just an example of what could happen. I teach ed students at Concordia, and I take from her prompts and I use them as question when we start our classes. And I let it get behind me and left it for a time. And one of my students approached me after class and said, we want to do those questions again. I thought, oh, you're supposed to be adults who are bitter and morose, but not quite yet. Okay, good. So then we started them again. And the students really loved it. And then I thought I would get very wise and make questions about pedagogy and practice. And they said, no, we want fun questions. So it's something that is very much part of can be part of your routine. So that's how I wanted to start with and make everything sort of connected. So the next slide will show us that in the new program of studies, we have learning outcomes. Now, every section has an organizing idea, which is the big piece, like text forms and structures. Identifying and applying text forms and structures improves understanding of content, literary style, and our rich language traditions. That's the big idea, if you will. By taking pieces out of this section, those are the pieces that you'll be looking at, that students will be focusing on, and that's what you'll be teaching. Learning outcomes are assessed and reported on. So the learning outcome gives us the direction. For instance, in grade 4, and I'm talking about fiction today, students examine how the form and structure of text can support the communication of ideas and information. And then it changes a little bit. Students examine how text genres, forms, and structures support. And then in grade 6, it's a little more accountable, more detailed, how text, form, and structure clarify information and support connecting with self, others, and the world. So these are the pieces that are assessed and reported on through what we call cusps. So the next slide is about cusps. K is for knowledge, U is for understanding, and SP is for skills and processes. So knowledge is what do students need to know. Understanding is again, sort of like the big idea that says students will come out of this teaching with an understanding of. And skills and procedures is about what students need to do to get at that learning outcome. So with knowledge, and as I said, I tried to tried to look at specifically narrative. In grade 4, we see that students need to know fiction it can be fiction and nonfiction, but there are the elements of narrative text. In grade 5, it's much the same, except grade 5 adds multiple events with many details. And in grade 6, we introduce conflict, and that's part of grade 4, 5, and in grade 6, we start to talk about conflict. So you can see those differences as we look at the knowledge outcomes. Okay, so that's the knowledge component. And as I said, understanding is that students will understand that you can communicate freely through knowing your text structures and features, very much like the organizing idea. Skills and processes are, and Trisha, if you want to pop in by any means, do that. But skills and processes are what students need to do. And they like, in my opinion, they remind me of the illustrative examples that we had in the old curriculum that said students need practice with writing good beginnings. Well, that's for me. Yes, that's a good piece for me to know as the teacher. So I really moved toward the knowledge component with the learning outcome there all the time, because that's what I need to assess through knowledge and understanding. And I think with knowledge, you'll know if your students understand or not. And that's a whole piece around assessment, performance assessment, that whole thing. Trisha? Did I get it right?
I totally agree with what you're saying. For sure, that's how they'll show you that they know these pieces. Yeah. I just wanted to add that in grade 4, that's actually the first time that the problem is highlighted. In grade 3, they don't have it in the narrative piece, although I feel like we actually do teach it as early as grade 3, maybe grade 2 even.
Agreed.
But in grade 4, they specifically mention problem, that it needs to be in there. And as you said, in grade 6, they specifically mention conflict. So that's the first time that comes up.
Yeah.
But yes, you are.
Yeah, and Carol said, are you able to share the remainder of the slide to show the grade 6 portion? That's all they show, Carol. I know it looks like there's more, but that's what it is. And I double checked it because I thought the same thing. I thought, where's the rest of it? But that's what it is.
So in a few minutes, when I show you the curriculum, I'll show you that part where it is too.
Yeah.
But that's in a bit. Okay.
So I'm moving into the mini lesson. Now, I thought, okay, how do I do this and connect the new curriculum to things? Well, you know, in a lot of ways, what we do is still critical. It's a matter of how do I read the new program of studies, and what do I keep that is critical to the work that I do? And without trying to say it's all the same, never mind. Yeah, we have to start to tweak things. It's more specific, but you know, I thought, well, let's look at something that we do or could do or should do. And well, let's have a mini lesson about learning how to summarize. So summarizing fiction, summarizing is telling the most important parts of a text in your own words in a much shorter way. And so what skills or what skill set do kids need to be able to summarize? And I know for myself, I'm, you know, guilty as charged in that I never thought about what do they need to do actually when they summarize? Well, obviously you need to read a text, a passage, or a situation. You need to learn how to select the most important information. And my big stickler was delete trivial and redundant material. What do you mean you don't know what that means? You should know that. You're in grade 6, which then they make you a consultant. But that's a whole other workshop with slides. So with delete trivial and redundant information, of course, they need to learn how to do that. Practice. mini lessons are short and focused and zeroing in on one skill at a time, and they're consistent and they're regular. And we practice deleting trivial and redundant material to make a point about what we're doing when we write our own narrative. Finding main patterns or ideas, making connections among important pieces of information. What's important? Oh, that belongs to that. And then we have substituting general terms for more specific ones. And another bugaboo that I looked at and said, oh, you should have done that. Create a new text that stands for the original text. The summary should not be longer than the original text. So these are very good skill sets that we can share with our students and say, you know, here are the skills I'm teaching you about summarizing. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 skill pieces that could definitely work through, you know, a mini lesson of each of these every day for a month, right? Like first we're going to read, then we're going to learn how to select important information. And so that's what that is. We're not sharing our, okay. I thought I had seen,
Lana had a question. I'm not sure.
okay.
Did you pull the summarizing skill sets from the skills and processes portion?
No, this came from an old project that as a consultant at Edmonton Public that we put together, and it's not even available online, but it just struck me as being that skill part. So we don't just say summarizing, we practice the parts that belong to summarizing as we go through, and just hence, I believe, good ideas for mini lessons around summarizing. Summarizing is also a wonderful way to indicate comprehension from a student. So if I don't know how to summarize and I just copy everything from what I just read, that's limited. That's not an excellent summary. Have I picked out important details? Have I found patterns? Have I deleted trivial and redundant? Oh, that's kind of moving more toward an excellent answer, because that's a good summary. So we really want to look at those pieces, but think about summarizing as also being a great indicator of comprehension, which could be, you could use some of the things you ask your kids to summarize could be used as an assessment piece that tells you that the student understands what he or she reads, or they don't, or they're struggling, or they're pretty okay at it. And summarizing shows your student, shows you, the teacher, that they understand the text structure. So that's an important piece. All right. So this is something that you would share, and I'm pretty sure most or all of you have narrative structures somewhere in your toolkits. An introduction, character, setting, conflict, plot. As I said, in grade 4, beginning, problem, event, solution, end. Grade 5 adds for events, multiple events, and then grade 6 adds the whole notion of conflict. But this is just a rundown of what narrative looks like when we break it down. So that's in some way, shape, or form, this would be something that you'd want to share with students or have as an anchor chart in the classroom the whole time that you are teaching the narrative. And when we teach how to write a narrative, we're also simultaneously teaching how to read a narrative. Reading and writing must go together. And when I used to do this, it was Monday we would read a narrative and we would break it down into its parts and so on. Tuesday we might focus on the introduction of the narrative that we read. Wednesday we might begin our own introduction to the narrative we're going to write. Thursday, we work some more on it. Friday, we go back and look at another narrative and break it down. So reading and writing need to be taught in sync. We can't do just a writing unit in January and then do reading at another time. If you're going to ask your students to write a narrative, we need mentor texts. We need to learn how to read and comprehend, as well as then taking from that and beginning to write our own narrative. And it's about quality, not quantity as well. And this summer I was really reading something about flash fiction, and I love the notion of flash fiction. What a way to get rid of wordiness. What a way to get kids to zero in on telling the whole story in 73 words or 100 words or 10 words. That's a whole other scenario, but flash fiction, if you're feeling like you'd like to add some spice to your work, I would, there's all kinds of things online, but flash fiction would really be something. There's a short 6-word short story, shortest story ever told, that's been it's claimed to be by Hemingway, but that really wasn't, he didn't write it. But for sale, new baby shoes never worn. There's your story, right? So that's a whole other piece. But flash fiction would be a great thing to do. That's my latest interest. So how do we work these? Somebody wanted but so is a really good template, and some of this I have you'll have on the link that you have. There are handouts that are connected to what I'm talking about, so you'll have access to that in a minute. I'll make sure to give you time to go in there. So somebody, who is the main character? Brianna, if you want to email me about any suggestions of which flash fiction stories would be best to start with, I can have an email conversation with you about that. Happy to do so. Wanted, what does the character want, or what is the character's goal? But what is the problem in the story, or what is keeping the character from his or her goal? So what is the solution to the problem, or how does the character reach his or her goal? And those are the elements of somebody wanted but so. And I would typically put this in column format or rows so that students can use this ahead of time to plan. Our emails will show at the end of the presentation today, Jessica. So somebody could be in a column. You can do this while as a prep for your story. This would be a very good comprehension strategy to use to summarize the story that we just read. Sometimes people write somebody wanted but so then, and I don't like complication, and so so and then are really, in my mind, one and the same thing. Somebody wanted but so then, and then, and then, and then, and like, no, we're keeping it tight. So that's why I don't put the then in there. So this is a very good piece to do as a mini lesson, or to use with the story that you are reading, to use with the story that you are writing. It's a good pre-planning page. So then the next page is the document as we want to create it for our students, with the little helpers underneath, if you will. And again, this keeps kids from being too wordy and teaches them to be precise when they are writing things down. Almost as, I could even see doing this in using, I'll show you something that is on your handouts, but really learning how to be precise about things. And that's what we want them to do. We can have them go on and on and on, and it doesn't work. So I just wanted to show you this example of a summary. Cinderella wanted to go to the ball, but her evil stepmother wouldn't allow her to go. So her fairy godmother showed up and used magic to give her a dress, shoes, and a carriage so she could go. And this person added, then she met the prince, they fell in love and lived happily ever after. But you can see that somebody wanted, but so is used in the summary component. Why not practice with fairy tales? Practice with short text. So this is the piece. And here's where I want to remind everyone of the I do it, we do it, you do it sequence of teaching. I'm going to explain this strategy to you. I'm going to model it. I'm going to use the mentor text, and I'm going to do explicit instruction. Then I'm going to give you guided practice with several of these. And this is my chance to go around and coach everyone to see what's going on. It's a great formative assessment piece to do. And eventually you get the sense of the room, where people at, what are they doing? And we do it, you do it is the application part. So we've looked at this narrative today or whatever, and now I want you to do a summary of it. And maybe I'll collect them at the door. Maybe I will mark them. Maybe I won't. This is under the first organizing idea, Juliet. It's the one about text structure. Okay, so some routine. This is now the next part that I would recommend is to how do we look at this? Well, we always start with shorter texts, paragraphs, magazines, news articles, and we build to longer texts. But especially in a mini lesson, I would go with short pieces of text to do the I'll show you, now I'll give you practice. And I'd move into longer text later on as we scaffold things. If something's complex, you always break it down into manageable chunks. And so we might summarize the first paragraph. We might summarize the first two paragraphs, but not the whole thing immediately. And this makes me think about something quickly before I go on. We have students summarize a lot where you can get them to summarize, whether it's oral or written or drawn. When you have silent reading in your classroom, which is another good routine, one day a week should be devoted to talking to your reading buddy about what you are reading. And one of the, like a talking Thursday or something, or talking Tuesday. And one of the questions that you ask the reading buddies, generic questions. So one of them could be summarize what you've read this week, because students tend to summarize from the beginning. Okay, so there was this girl, etc. Have them summarize just what they read that week. And week to week, they could do that. So think about summarizing wherever you can. Even it's something like, tell each other, summarize your weekend to each other on Monday or something like that with the opening questions, and have that mentor, that anchor chart about this is what you need to do when you do the act of summarizing. And stop at the end of the paragraph or page or chapter and review what it was about, not the whole thing. Because I think kids tend to go there. It's like when you say summarize what you've read. Okay, so at the beginning, but we want them to summarize in specific chunks. Practice makes perfect. And so I want to just share with you a couple of pieces around a good rubric. And I know that Tricia will be talking to us about that in greater detail. But obviously, it facilitates clear and meaningful communication. So what I've done is I'm doing the mini lesson. How do we assess? And what are some good routines to keep or add to the work that we do as language arts teachers? It keeps us accountable and consistent in our grading. And I know that many times have I have I said, here's what you need to put in your writing. And when I get the work back, I start circling small i's and doing paragraph indents and things that were really nothing that I talked about when I said, this is what must go in your writing. So this keeps us accountable and consistent in our grading and focused. It's humanly impossible to mark every single thing on a grade 5 story, period. So you have to assess what you teach. And that's why a rubric is a very, very important component. And it keeps us, and a marking guide, anything that says, here are the pieces that I told you I was looking for, that I gave you practice with, and this is what I'm marking. And I'm just going to remind myself to talk about something that will help us do this. A single point rubric includes guidance on the work without listing a grade, like what we need to work on and what is amazing. And it helps our students to move their attention off of grades and looks at the quality of the work, which is more important. As students have a really hard time talking about their work, they can criticize your work and someone else's, but not their own. And we need to give them the language to teach them how to look at the quality of their work and talk about it in terms of quality. Something that I've often used that I really, really like is a no excuses list. And I put that in my classroom and make students familiar with it. The rules of a no excuses list are that you only put up to 6 points on the poster. And they are, what do you put on a no excuses list? Things that you as the teacher can obviously see. So one might be name. Another one might be no small i's exist alone. Another one might be legible. Another one might be words spelled correctly, but don't do more than 6. And you might have 2 at the beginning of the year. The reason that you need to be able to see this on the spot is that you can give the work back to the student and say, you're not done yet. You better check your no excuses list. Those are the accountability pieces that students should be doing, because I know you know your name. I know you know that there are no small i's that exist alone. You handle them. I have bigger fish to fry, and they are on my rubric. So a no excuses list becomes very, very helpful for times like this. And, be prepared that for the first 2 weeks, you're going to give everybody's work back all the time until students get the hang of a no excuses list and what that can do. It's quite powerful, and it needs to be on a big chart paper. I've seen them on 8.5 by 11 in the back, and I'm thinking, no one sees it, no one cares to see it. And I stick with 6 because if we start creating lists of what you need to be responsible for, it becomes unwieldy and students don't pay attention to it anymore. And we don't mark the use of it, but we certainly say in the marking, it's unfortunate that you did not use your no excuses list. I can see that you whatever. So that is something that I wanted to share. So here is a good, and this will be in your handouts. Here is a narrative pyramid. And I really, really enjoy it. It's just super. It's a challenge, but in a good way. It's something that students, and I've seen them enjoying doing it, grade 2, grade 7 and up. It's a good piece. So the writing looks like a pyramid when it's done. The number in brackets is how many words you get. So list the character's name, 1 word, describe the character in 2 words, provide 3 words for the setting, provide 4 words explaining the problem, and it goes down to 8 words that express solution. What a neat way to have students do that and then have them hand it in. And this could be for you for formative assessment. This could be for you to actually look at and do a rubric with it to say, you missed some points, that kind of thing. And this is really authentic because these are the most critical elements that I want my students to show me that they know. And that's what we want. I need you to show me that you know these particular elements. That's why I need to mark it or want to use it as summative assessment. So the next piece is about creating a rubric about summarizing. And I focused in on grade 4. I took out understandings and knowledge, and I said, student understands that narrative follows a structure. Student understands that summarizing information involves determining key ideas and specific details and logical organization. And then I would have excellent, proficient, adequate, limited, which are my favorites. And I would have a descriptor for each. So for instance, a summary under excellent could be insightful. Perhaps under proficient, the summary could be thoughtful. Perhaps under adequate, the summary could be reasonable. And perhaps for limited, the summary could be minimal. And it's just a brief showing you how that could work. It's so important to wordsmith rubrics. And I know we can argue till the cows come home about what insightful really means, but we can show our students, what does excellent have in it? What is an excellent anything? What's proficient? What's adequate? What's limited? And excellent is that gut feeling that you get as a teacher that says, whoa. Proficient is, excuse my language, it's a damn good piece of writing. Very good. Perhaps that risk-taking isn't there. There isn't that crafting. Adequate is really, really average. And it's, you know, if your eye starts twitching or something like that, you'll know that this is an adequate piece. Adequate writing is very listy, and it goes on, and it'll say, I went with my 20 friends, Mary, Buffy, Jane, like that. And limited, arguably, can be at grade, but that's it. You are hanging on. It can also be, you know, below grade, but that's, you know, it's an arguable piece for sure. I like and understand the notion that you are limited. Your voice is grade 5, but you're just really having some trouble. So that's how I'm just trying to share the important components about thinking. But you can see in grade 4, there are criteria for summarizing. And you don't need a million criteria for a rubric. 1 or 2, this is fine for me. It keeps me focused, and I can actually look at that and say, this is what I'm marking. And you want to use that no excuses list for part of the work that students are doing. And this is what you are after. And a good answer would provide evidence from the text. It would provide references to the story and so on. So how do you know that? Why do you know that? Are critical pieces. So I'm going to turn this over to Tricia, and I'm going to just let her take it away and show you how to do a curriculum search.
All right, thank you. So I'll do a little bit of work showing you how all of those things that we've been sharing are connected with the curriculum. But I'm going to go back and sorry, trying to find there we go. All right. So I'm going to go to the curriculum, a new Learn Alberta website, and I'll show you some connections with what Irene's been showing you. So if you probably already know some of these things. I'm just going to give you a few reminders. Remember to log in, because you will see more resources and more on the boards if you're logged in than if you are not logged in. But I'm going to take you to English Language Arts and Literature. That's where we're working today. And in this, you see about halfway down my screen on the right-hand side, it says more info. You might not have looked at that. It does have an introduction to English Language Arts and Literature, but I want you to see the organizing ideas and how they're laid out for us. So this is a session on grade 4, 5, and 6 English language arts and literature. And I want you to notice that in grade 4, you have 7 organizing ideas to work with. And in grade 5 and 6, you are working with 6 organizing ideas, because in grade 4, you work on fluency, but in 5 and 6, fluency is not assessed. I'm sure that you'll still do activities that have to do with fluency, but you're not required to assess and report on fluency in grade 5 and 6. So that's one piece that I wanted to show you. As well, when you're in here, you can, if you click on any of these, you'll be taken directly to that organizing idea. So as you can see, when we're right in the curriculum, on grade 4, the fluency organizing idea has nothing to the right of it. So I currently have my screen set up so that I can see 2 grades at a time. And I think I usually do this because I work with lots of teachers who teach multiple grades in multi-grade classrooms. So just so that you know, you can zoom in and out so that you are able to see up to 3 grades at a time. Or if you want to zoom right in, you'll see only 1 grade at a time. And you can do that through your browser. The zoom in and zoom out button helps you see multiple grades. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew some of those little tricks. The organizing ideas, each organizing idea in English language arts and literature only has 1 learning outcome. So I find it much easier to navigate than some of the other curriculums, just because, like in math, an organizing idea might have several learning outcomes. Let's look at the learning outcome for fluency for an example. If you hover over that learning outcome, there are 2 icons that come up. The first one is so that you're able to share with your Google Classroom if you're interested. The second one is a little eye in a circle, and I wanted to make sure that you knew that that was available for you. If you click on that eye in a circle on each learning outcome, you will get, first of all the cusps that are connected with that learning outcome. And then there are resources linked to that learning outcome that will come up for you. If it is an online resource, you can click on it and go directly to that resource. If it is blue, it's information only, and that means it's a suggestion for something that your school or district might want to purchase. Also connected are the competency progressions. The competencies have not changed. Those are the same competencies that we've been working on since 2013, I believe. Those came out. And the literacy and numeracy progressions are also the same. I find the literacy progressions helpful when a student isn't meeting expectations. I often go to it and say, what did they miss? What came before that, before this piece that we're working on? So that's a time when you might want to look at the literacy progressions. But for today's work, we're sticking with what's in the curriculum. And I just wanted to let you have a look at those few things, the zoom in and zoom out. And the last thing I'm going to show you that you may or may not already know. Up at the top, this icon of magnifying glass, it's a search button. So if, for example, Irene's been talking lots about summarizing today. If we put in the word summarize, and let's say just English language arts we want, for now anyway, And let's include everything. So everything means resources, curriculum, boards, and information centers. And let's include all grades just to see what we get. There's 13 results. So we see that there is in the resources section, summarizing organizer, which might be a useful resource if you want to we'll have a quick look at that. It's green because I'm logged in. I'm able to view that resource and I can also print it. So that's a sample of it does a lot of the same things that Irene's tools are telling you. So just be aware that these are available to you there too. All right, I'll close that one. So that's one of the resources that comes up when we search summarize. Oh, darn, I went too far back. Let's see if I go ahead. No, I'm gonna have to do it again. I wanted to show you one more thing when I look at summarize, sorry. And no, just do that. 17 results because I didn't limit it this time. For cross-curricular outcomes, I want you to see that in math, they have to summarize data in grade 5, and in social studies in grade 5, they'll have to they start taking notes. That hasn't come in yet. The social studies still needs work, but this is just to remind you that there are cross-curricular opportunities with lots of these outcomes. I'm going to take you to the English language arts outcome in grade 6. So let's have a look at where summarizing comes in grade 6. Oh, I didn't click on it properly, but both in text forms and structure, it shows up, and it shows up in comprehension. So if I scroll all the way down to comprehension section, sorry for making you dizzy, but we'll get there. Writing, I went too far. Comprehension. Summarizing is also one of the strategies. There we are. Comprehension strategies can be used to interpret and respond to increasingly complex texts and include. So these are 7 strategies that students can use to demonstrate their comprehension. So just make sure that you're aware that summarizing is one of the 6 ways that students can do that to demonstrate comprehension. And that is just one of the rows of cusps that talks about strategies. Maybe that was everything I wanted to show you for now. Kim, did you want to add anything curriculum-wise? Anything jumping to mind?
I was just going to make. Oh.
Is that not? It's not going to work. Okay, that's all right. Shoot, that's too bad. Anyway, does anyone have a question curriculum-wise before I move on? We will be doing this throughout the week, teaching you something and then showing you how it connects to the curriculum, going back and forth in this way. So maybe I will just go back to the slides. I don't know if Kim's trying to contact me or put it in the chat. That's all right. I'll go back to the slides. And for now, those are the things that I wanted to make sure that you're aware of and you could see. So if you're ready, oh, Kim, do you want to try?
Yeah, is it echoing now? Oh, that's terrible.
No, it's good.
Okay, I apologize for that. One thing I was just going to add that's linked to what you just shared, Trisha, is the connection, as Irene mentioned, between summarizing and comprehension, but I also wanted to add in background knowledge. So something that I used to do in grade 6 was have my students choose text that they felt connected to their background knowledge, and then use that text and as a way to model and scaffold how to summarize, because then they were bringing in that background knowledge to support comprehension, to then focus heavily on the summarizing skills and strategies. So I just wanted to add that in terms of the comprehension piece.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, and that, you're right. That is the next row of cusps. So your strategy then would bring those 2 rows of cusps together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we will go back now to the slides.
What I'd like to do right now, thank you both very much. I would like to give you a bit of time, not much, but a bit, 10 minutes maybe, to look at the curriculum components that Tricia just took you through, to also go into the link that Heather sent you to look at the handouts that I am sharing with you. And we're here to answer any questions in the chat. And I think that we will say 11:30, so that's only about 8 minutes. But just go into the parts that Tricia showed and that the handouts that you have from me about this morning, to just look through and see what's there. And then we're here for questions, and then we'll continue at in about 8 minutes.
Okay, I will pause the recording and then people can join back. Thanks.
Standing. And I felt that skills and procedures, again, would be more information for us. You know, one of the, as I'm looking at the screen here, use a variety of comprehension strategies before, during, and after reading text is something I need to do. It doesn't say specifically that in terms of what skill, but I would be teaching before, during, and after reading strategies. So my instinct was to go to knowledge and look at keeping the learning outcome in mind when I created rubrics.
Kim, it sounds like a lot of people do want that. I would agree with Lana's suggestion.
I haven't read it yet, but I'm reading her mind. I'll just send the recording out, send it to Heather. Is that okay? Perfect.
Exactly.
We read each other's minds. Okay.
Yeah, Lana's on it.
Okay, I'm glad everyone's interested, and I'm happy to do that. So I'll send it to Heather, and we can just send it out to everyone with the recording.
Awesome. All right.
Okay, so sorry, Tricia, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, the same thing that you're saying. Let's go back to the slides and continue.
So you've had a chance to look and learn at a couple of things, and I hope some of you had a chance to look at the handouts, because they connect to the things I'm saying, and you're welcome to use those pieces for sure. So the other piece that I wanted to talk to you about was routine. And routine is something that is as critical as our planning for learning is. Routine creates opportunities for all students then. So if we're doing silent reading every day and then having a talking day about what we've read, that's a good routine that's open to everyone. If we can use routine to practice foundational elements of reading and writing. For instance, the question of the day, whether it's done orally or in a quick write, would be something that's open to everyone, without any sort of huge parameters around that. It contributes to student agency. So tools to approach a new problem using what you already know. So routines connect to the kind of thing that students need to use when they are learning. Again, I must stress that you teach routine. You give kids guided practice, and then you ask them to apply what they have learned in a situation, which would be maybe we have quick writes every day, maybe we have quick writes every 3 days, and that helps students take from that to looking at something like brainstorming ideas for a story. When we look at that that whole mini lessons around elements of narrative, we take from that and we use it in writing that bigger story, or in reading and comprehending. And thank you, Tricia, for bringing up the comprehension component of summarizing. As I said, reading and writing must be taught together, two sides of the same coin. And so you have opportunities to write and learn to read narrative as well, as is stated in the program of studies. So routines are a critical component of the work that you do with your students. If you've got combined grades, routines are perfect for both grades. We want students to read silently. We want them to talk about what they're reading. Have a bank of generic questions that you can ask of everybody, no matter what they're reading, as a starting point to talk. So today on Talking Thursday, I want you to tell each other something you really like about what you're reading so far. The following week could be, today I want you to tell each other about something you don't like about what you're reading so far. So a bank of generic questions like that helps to applies to everyone across the board, so that it's not a specific to a certain kind of reading, because we also want our students to feel that they can read anything they want, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, magazine articles, that whole thing. And again, once kids are in that routine, they will know what they are to do. So they'll have the tools available, and all of that adds to their background knowledge when they do the heavy lifting. So what are some habits of mind? Well, I would suggest that in your work, you create and establish a question of the day to support the notion of oral language, to support the notion of kids talking to each other about something. And a question of the day also meant, as Kim said, lets them think about what they already know about something. So are you a mountains or an oceans person? Have that talk with each other. Well, now I can tell you this, that, or the other, and I'm using my background knowledge to do that. And as I said, journalbuddies.com, very good place to go. We know there are a gazillion prompt pieces out there, but I think less is more. And I really, she's my go-to. That's my go-to place for topics. Word work is something you want to do every day, and this fits cross-curricular, cross-grade, because we want to make sure that the words we work on with our students are the critical words for that unit. They are perhaps the life words that everybody should know. We could review, things like weather, environment. Those are words these are world words. They are life words. We want to make sure you know that. We could have a mentor, like an anchor chart of that. And are the words that we are studying nice to know or worth the time? Probably the middle section, the section of right now words, are great to work on, 1 or 2 a day for that unit. So you need to know what these words mean in order to comprehend the unit that we're about to, or that we're embarking on or in the middle of. Other ideas for word work: prefix, suffix, affix, spelling rules, those kinds of things. So there are a lot. You've got a year's worth of word work kinds of pieces that could be infused into as part of the routine, that we appreciate words, that we know how to become good word learners, and that we can do that. Maybe that's once a week. So I'm not suggesting all of this goes into every day, but certainly certainly we want to incorporate that. We love words. Words are important. Now, for the teacher, you need to provide a purpose for your students every day. And for the teacher, we want to say, we are reading this article about salmon fishing today because the setting of our novel that we're reading takes place in a salmon fishing village. That's why we're doing this. We are learning how to be specific with our word choices. That's why we are creating a somebody wanted but so chart for ourselves before we write. So just a simple purpose. Kids have a right to know where they're going in a language that they understand. And so that's a really important piece. Have you provided a purpose? Do you have to model anything? What's your explicit instruction? What's your guided practice? And how will you have your students apply? The question of the year is, what makes you think so? And no matter what we do with our students in any subject, you'll ask a question, the student will answer. We've got to add, what makes you think that? How do you know that? Why would you say that? So what makes you think so, or variations thereof, become your habit of mind, so that kids can think further about what they've just said. And I've seen it. Students will look up and think, oh, well, because, Australia is smaller than Canada. What makes you think so? Well, I looked on a map, and so we want our what makes you think so to align with the accountable talk component that says, you need to use evidence. Oh, sorry. Sorry, guard dog. Not really, but pretending. So what makes you think so aligns with that accountable talking. And when you model and think aloud anything, you're going to say, I think this because, I know this because. So evidence is really critical when are you having a discussion with your students, or is it an interrogation? Model and think aloud has to be from you. You want to make sure that modeling is another habit of mind for you, because kids will pay attention. They will look and they will listen when you talk about, this is how I do it, and I do it this way because. Now, accountable talk is something that you want to infuse over the long run. And accountable talk is about having conversation structures, focused conversations. I know that topics come up in your day-to-day work, and it's like, yes, that was horrible, and you kind of have that conversation. That's fine. But when we're teaching content and other in all subjects, we want to have some protocols that kids use so they can learn from each other. One of those is, of course, Jigsaw. Another one is Save the Last Word. Another one is Inside Outside. And I do have some of those. If you'd like to request, I'm happy to serve you with that. But accountable talking / focused conversation teaches our students how to listen, how to talk to each other, how to be polite, how not to interrupt, how to be respectful, and how to listen to other perspectives. And that's why oracy is such an important, critical part of the work we do in school, right through the grades, kindergarten and up. So again, are you infusing accountable talk? Are you getting into the habit of mind about, well, what makes you think that? Why did you think that? And it's good to ask for that evidence. Evidence is key. That's what makes a good reading response answer. Did you provide evidence from the text to support your thought? And it's not a good answer if you just said, I like Jim because he's cool. How do you know that? What makes you think that? You have to provide evidence of that. Sticky notes is another piece that I find incredible. I like to teach students how to highlight, but again, your habit of mind, which will then develop into the minds of our students are the use of sticky notes. While you read, I want you to, and that's that during reading, think and read at the same time component that we really need to be responsible for with our students. Because read this page means to someone could mean, you know, I read it, the word, my eyes went over the words, now what would you like me to do? And we need to say, think and read. So our habit of mind needs to be, while you read, I want you to take 2 stickies and put a sticky where you've made a personal connection. Put it right on those words and briefly jot down what your personal connection is. And I want you to do that twice because I said 2 stickies. At the end of the reading, we are going to write, draw, or tell what our personal connections were that we made to the reading. And we use the information from our sticky notes with which to do that. We can write about it in an exit slip. We can tell our reading buddy about it. We can draw a picture of it. And that could be an exit slip too. So sticky notes needs to be controlled and because you're going to get, I watched a teacher do this in a class and the grade 4 little girl turned around and looked at me and her whole face was covered with sticky notes, even her eyelids, and she could do that. And that was creepy. It scared me, but that's why I said controlled. And I mean that sincerely. You get 2 and that's what you're using. So that's, we need to get those other pieces out of the way. So you might say 3 sticky notes. You might say 1 sticky note, but then you're always wanting to make sure that the sticky notes end up doing something, write, draw, or tell after the fact. And of course, always, as much as we say, what makes you think so, accountable talking, personal connections are critical. And that's where all learning starts, is that personal connection component. And when you make a personal connection in your explicit instruction, kids are interested, they're thrilled. They didn't know that you had a life. And so I think these are really important habits of mind to really think about. So even something like I do it, we do it, you do it. Also, I wanted to just throw that in terms of that's our thinking, that's our sequence of teaching that we want to think about. And then I need to go to student activities, and these are things like the narrative pyramid, which I showed you. I love doing it. The kids love it. I have them do it in pairs. The plot diagram is another way to work through a mini lesson of summarizing. And you've seen them all sorts of different plot diagrams and plot charts. Even something as simple as an exit slip, or rather a 5-finger summary. You can outline your own hand, or you can outline yours and give everyone a copy. And now we say, write your favorite character's name on your palm and 5-finger ideas about why you like that character. Write down the content we talked about, the main idea in science today, and write down 5-finger facts about that concept. So a 5-finger summary is very easy. It's very visual. Never assume that the kids are going to write like this, which I did, because some will go like this, and then you can't see anything. You need a magnifying glass for that. Exit slips are great, but they must be very specific to summarizing something. So we can't just, our exit slips need to be connected directly to what was learned today. They cannot be, do you have any questions about something? Those kinds of things. They need to be, write a summary of your favorite fairy tale. And that could be an exit slip, and use somebody wanted but so. So always connecting everything that we do to it. Reading headlines is a wonderful way to summarize. reading headlines that's the summary. Reading this headline, what do you think this article is going to be about? Let's read some articles and create a headline for them. And then a 6-word summary or other number, but a 6-word summary, much like that narrative pyramid, but in 6 words. Tell me what that was about. And that really helps against that wordiness and that lengthy piece, and a summary should be shorter than the actual original text. So those are some of the things, some of the other activities that we can do with our students. I wanted to share one more piece, and yeah, okay, that's good right there, Tricia, please. I wanted to just share the notion of sentence stems. Do we provide our students with possible sentence starters for their stories? So I might suggest sentence stems like, I turned and suddenly, I heard this noise, and then after that, and we create 5 or 6 in a before, middle, and after kind of way, and we put them on an anchor chart. And eventually we get our students to help us create sentence stems, and we ask our students to use them. So I might give you 7 sentence stems, but I want you to use 4 out of those 7. Otherwise you'll get, fill in the blanks kinds of answers when the students write. But I would explain and explain and explain, and then I'd say, okay, go. And students didn't know where do I start? Once upon a time, is that where I go? But to work on and show and share sentence stems when students write, whatever the assignment is about, is absolutely critical. And we want students to say, can I make my own sentence starters? Of course you can. You can use a few and create your own. Limit the choices though, because that prevents that fill in the blanks kind of answer. These are some sentence stems that speak to summarizing. So you could say this was about, I'm sorry, the second one should say, I noticed that. The most significant part was, a thought I especially enjoyed was, an idea that captured my interest was, keywords for me were, an idea that sparkled for me was, I like the way the author, the main character is, the problem is, and is this is about, I can't see that bottom one in this chapter. So we are not, mollycoddling our students when we give them sentence stems when they do a reader response or writing. We are showing them how sentences can be started. We could create them over time and keep them on an anchor chart and say to our students, we created these, you can use any of these that you want. Again, making sure we incorporate the whole notion that you can't just do them all and answer them all. That's not writing. That this helps you to write something. This does not do the writing for you. I don't know if the list is in the handouts I sent, but I can certainly make sure that I can send this list of sentence starters.
The last one is in this chapter. Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, in this chapter. I don't know if it's included in your handouts. Okay.
And I think, is there another component to this, Tricia? Another slide?
Nope. The next slide goes to the resources page.
Okay.
Okay.
So take it away.
All right. So I want to share with you what we as an organization have been working on. We have a website that includes many resources. I'm going to go back actually so that you can see where you land, but the new curriculum resources page. So this is arpdc.ab.ca/new-curriculum-resources. Then on this website, we've been putting different resources that will help you teach. I don't think there's anything in social studies yet, but all the other ones have some things in them. And I want to focus right now on some of the English language arts. We just have a few minutes left, so I'll maybe give you some ideas of where to get started, and then you can have some time to look at it yourself. On Wednesday, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into some of the planning pieces and show you some curriculum, some year plans for grade 4, 5, and 6. But for today, I wanted you to be aware of this new curriculum implementation toolkit. So when I click on that, I have a choice of a landscape or a portrait version. So I'll do portrait right now. There are many resources linked in here. Description of the toolkit. Some things, if there's anything about the New Learn Alberta website that you had trouble with, here's a place to look at it. Someone asked about morphology resources. There is a slideshow about doing morphology as part of your daily work. In the curriculum, there's a bit about hybrid texts, which is not, we've never had that specifically mentioned in our curriculum before. What it means is that it's two genres in one. So for example, I've seen some poetry books about plant life, or poetry books about a pond. That's what I was thinking of. And so it'll have the poem, but in the margins, it will have factual information about those whatever's in the pond. So that would be a hybrid text. Lots of planning, helpful things. And I'll talk about the grade 4, 5, and 6 long range planning on Wednesday in more detail. Some things about differentiated instruction, which we all have a requirement to do. None of our students are at the exact same level. Some connections to some single point rubrics, as we talked about or referred to today. Building a guide to success. So this is what you would give a student before they complete an assignment, so that they know what they have to do to get an excellent mark. Oh, thanks, Vanessa, for putting that in. Mostly for today, I just wanted you to be aware that it's here, and you can have a look at that when you have a chance, but we'll go into more depth on future days. I'm aware that we just have 5 minutes left in our time together, so I don't want to take away too much time. Irene, you wanted to end with a thought-provoking question, and
Yes.
we want to make sure that everyone has our email addresses. So I will go to that thought-provoking question. Oops.
So I would like you just to reflect, briefly on, 3 ideas that you heard today, 2 ideas that you'd like to pursue, and an action that you would take immediately in September. So if we do waterfall again, just think of an action from today that sparked your interest, that you think, I'm going to try and infuse that into my work. And so just put that into the chat and I'll count down, and then we can see what people are saying.
Lana, thanks for putting that in the chat. That's excellent.
Okay, people are doing it. Let's go 3, 2, 1, and let's put some ideas in here that have sparked your interest. Question of the day, sentence stems, flash fiction, no excuses. Yeah, no excuses, I'm telling you.
Lots of good points. While people are still putting that up, I'm going to put our email addresses. Lana, if I had known you were going to be here, I would have put yours up too, but do you want to put yours in the chat, Lana? Lana is our colleague. She works with us on lots of activities, and lots of the ARPDC resources are her creation as well. Hey. All right. With only
So
three.
a
Yeah.
lot of people are in a no excuses kind of mood, which is good. And it just sort of throws that accountability piece back on students, which I think is fair enough. I would really like to thank you for your commitment, for your enthusiasm, for all the things that you do with the students in a year. And so I hope that some of this has been helpful, and I look forward to being with you all week. Thank you very much.
I will stop sharing. I think. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you for the rest of the week.